Dillon Valor, 5th period. End of the year project on World War II. Time span 1939 to 1945. This is my end of the year project. I hope you enjoy. Overall, after World War I, the Germans were angered at the perceived unfair treatment reflected in the Treaty of Versailles. The treaty required that they admit guilt for causing the war, pay huge sums of money, have a very small army and navy, and lose land. In 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany and began secretly taking back and building up their army. In 1938, Germany took over Austria, and in 1939, Germany attacked Poland. During the war, the Americans created the Lend-Lease Act on March 11, 1941, which was a plan under which the United States would give financial help to the Allied powers for fighting the Axis powers in World War II. It consists of food, materials, weapons, and servants. Trading partners included Britain, the USSR, the Republic of China, and Free France. By the end of 1943, the U.S. was producing more weapons than all the rest of the countries at war combined, both Axis and Allied. America developed the U.S. Neutrality Acts in the 1930s to prevent the U.S. from being drawn into another world war. All foreign countries in a war could not buy weapons from the U.S. and had to pay cash or gold for supplies and food. By 1941, the U.S. changed its position to help Britain and the Allies because of Germany's war actions. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the U.S. fully supported the Allies with weapons, supplies, and food. The U.S. presidential election of 1940 was between Franklin D. Roosevelt, a Democrat and the current president at the time, and Wendell Willkie, Republican businessman. Willkie ran against the president, focusing on Roosevelt's perceived failure to end the Great Depression, and Roosevelt's supposed eagerness to go to war. Roosevelt took the opposing view, noting that if he was reelected as president, he would not send Americans to fight in another country's war. Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt won his third term in office, winning 55% of voters of all. He later went on to win a fourth term, but died shortly after. The GI Bill of Rights gave veterans housing for free, along with pay for education. This greatly helped struggling veterans who returned to a very different America. The GI Bill of Rights also gave the returning veterans the ability to get a college education, get a job, and buy a house with no down payment loan. This helped the veterans and helped the economy grow tremendously. The Supreme Court case, Korematsu versus United States, determined if the United States could legally put Japanese Americans in internment camps during World War II. The court agreed with the government's position. The court indicated that the need to watch out for spying was greater than the need to protect individual rights. They mainly did this on the West Coast. Protesters exercised the First Amendment right of assembly by holding protest rallies against having U.S. soldiers being sent to fight overseas. Interestingly, one group, the American Peace Mobilization, APM, initially protested against the war, but on June 22, 1941, when the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union, they reversed their position and demanded that the U.S. immediately join the fight. They then changed their name to the American Peace Mobilization, changing the word peace to peoples. The Japanese bombing on the Navy base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii struck fear and anger into most Americans and pulled the U.S. into World War II. The U.S. involvement in the war also helped end the Great Depression in the U.S. and strengthen us in turning us into a new superpower. So now you know the basic summary of World War II, how it started because of World War I and the Treaty of the Unfair Versailles, and how the Lend-Lease Act let us help without getting us into another big war like the last time, and how at first we would give food and supplies to everyone, but for a high price. and how that all changed because of Pearl Harbor, and then we were all out for the Allies. This was all under Franklin D. Roosevelt, a good Democratic leader who happened to serve longer than any president ever to exist in the United States. How he made the GI Bill of Rights to help out poor veterans who were returning to a different America where they really didn't have lives. It gave them lives, gave them jobs, and gave them a place to live, a roof over their heads. And then, of course, we have Poor Monty versus the United States, which made America look very bad, but sadly was necessary, pinning all those poor Japanese Americans, many probably good people, in the concentration camps. But even in this time of war, the people of America still had enough in them to exercise their rights and protest for what they believed and knew was right. Overall, World War II changed everything. America greatly. The war cost many, many lives and led to the rise of new governments and the fall of others. Russia and the U.S. became the two great superpowers. Veterans returned home to work, get college, and become new homeowners. It showed us that we were not imprisoned by our terrible acts, but also showed us that the U.S. could not just stand aside while others fought for freedom. We had to join in. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.